Welcome back to Exploring Growth Podcast. I'm your host, Lee Murray, and I'm excited for this episode. I really am. I've been looking forward to this for a little while because we are now one more episode into how to build a strategic marketing plan, this course that I'm building. And today we're talking about the importance of using a buyer's journey to inform the type of campaigns that you run and the content then that's created inside of them. And I'm most excited to have Nick Petros on today, CEO of PinchForth, digital marketing agency, because I've worked closely with his team now for probably close to a year or more than a year on various different client projects. And I've seen the way they operate, and they are in the minutia every single day. Him and his team run complicated campaigns for their clients every single day. And the buyer's journey is central to those campaigns being successful. So I'm really excited to have Nick on. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, glad to be here. Excited to talk journey with you.
Yeah, so let's just jump right into it. I want to kind of start at a high level. Like a lot of what I do with my clients, and then a lot of the value I want the people taking this course to get from is how does this have application in my business? You know, if we're going to spend time and resources and money on this, what's the return, right? So the question to you is, why is it important to spend time creating a buyer's journey, outlining it, and what can we expect to get from spending that time?
Yeah, let me start with a little backstory for you.
Yeah, sure.
We'll dial back to, this is 2014, 2015, like old school Facebook advertising.
All right.
So I was working at a startup at a Harvard iLab called Rally Point, vertical social network for the military, and we were trying to get people to sign up just to be members of the network. And back in the day, this is before funnels were cool. I think Brunson was just getting going with ClickFunnels, but
It was just getting born probably at that time.
Yeah, right. Hey, I'm not that old, no grades yet. But I think everyone was running these like 1 or 2 step funnels, right? Where here's an ad, here's a conversion action, go.
Right.
And Facebook was also trying to figure out their advertising model, right? So they weren't fully monetized yet. They had a powerful platform, but they're basically trying to deliver as much value for dollar spent as possible. Fast forward to today, like you can no longer pixel track, everything is offline, so conversions are not nearly as efficient as they used to be. And everybody, including the big box brands that weren't really touching Facebook back then, is on Facebook with mega spend vying for the same eyes that you are. So you have like decreasing audience size, increasing advertising size, increasing cost. Suddenly people are paying 100% of their initial transaction size to acquire a customer. So, all their profits coming in the back end, second, third, fourth, fifth touch. So bringing that back up to the journey, I think the reason why things are so inefficient today is a hybrid of, brands moving into digital space at record pace and spend, increasing. That's the only way to get more revenue for a lot of these guys. And the fact that when you're only running 1 or 2 touches before you ask someone to buy, you're really biasing all of your conversions towards an early adopter, like someone willing to roll the dice.
Yes.
This is like, if we're going to use an obscure analogy, this is like the person who agrees to go on a date with you after you buy them a beer at the bar and have a conversation. It's like, who's a beer? I want to go on a date. Like, yes, we do. It's weird in a bar, but it's okay online.
And we all know it takes at least 3 beers, right?
I know. So the buyer journeys we build are 7. I'm not going to apply those to a beer analogy so we don't get in trouble. But
yeah, that's right.
when you're thinking about ROI, think about it like dating. The more time you spend together, the more you know each other, and the more you're prepared to make like an educated decision about whether or not you want to spend more time together.
Sure.
And I think today it's so easy and so cheap to reach customers. The onus is on us as marketers to find more ways to deliver value and establish trust before we ask for that investment.
Right.
And I think that's where the ROI from a buyer journey comes from. And do you want me to break that down in terms of metrics, like what the returns could look like?
That'd be good. But just before you do that, let's first, for some of the marketers in the room are maybe hearing buyer's journey for the first time, right? So let's start there and kind of say, what is a buyer's journey? Let's just define that real quick.
Yeah. So it's the path through which a buyer goes from totally unaware of your product or service
Mhm.
to transacting with you, trusting you with their money and their card or bank information,
Right.
and all the steps in between. So, it's not like an emotional experience. Everyone knows like attract, acquire, so on, the acronyms.
Mhm.
The buyer journey is literally the steps that they take, right? So,
Yes.
search for you on Google, find you on Facebook, download a PDF, sign up for
Mhm.
your email list, put a product in cart, transact, take a
Yes.
demo if it's a service, that sort of thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's good. And then if we dove a little deeper, I think there are some broad strokes that, generally speaking, most marketers can take, which are awareness, and nurture, engagement, and conversion. So if you're
Yeah,
breaking them up that way, that's already going to help you have like a second layer of thinking as you're getting
yeah.
closer to the actual steps. And then maybe a hybrid of those two is going to get you closer to putting the plug in the socket, I guess, so that there's power behind the whole thing. So
Hmm.
that's good. I think that's a good sort of framework to start from. And I think some
Yeah.
marketers listening to this are not running paid campaigns yet, or they're looking to run paid campaigns. So from an organic standpoint, posting on social, posting on LinkedIn specifically, um, running email
Blogs,
campaigns,
podcasts.
doing those kind of things, and maybe even just honestly, I see a lot of mid-tier company marketers. They are running the two-step, and they may be doing it on both, on all different aspects, from the awareness through to conversion. And I see,
Yeah.
the thing I see is most of them are starting with that bottom of the funnel. They're starting with the conversion,
Hmm.
and they're running
Yep.
an ad and asking someone to buy, right? And
Hmm.
then, because to my back to my first point is, they are wanting to demonstrate to leadership that they can sell something with the ad, or they can have a return on the spend that they're spending, whether it's $500 a month or $50,000 a month.
Hmm.
And so there that could be problematic. And
Hmm.
I just stop for a second just to say and underscore this point that I have to say a lot, and that is, because marketing is not sales. Sales is
Hmm.
sales, marketing is marketing. Marketing can be used to support sales, and should be, and used to influence sales. Um,
Hmm.
and in the e-commerce world, which you spend a lot of time in, it can actually be a sale, but
Hmm.
that's going to be something very different than a buyer that is B2B, typically, that has a higher price point. So they're buying something that's over 50 or $100,000 price point, the longer sales
Hmm.
cycle. There's a lot more touch points with people. So there, in that case, which I think are a large majority of the people watching this, that marketing is not sales. So,
Hmm.
there's a lot of different ways to slice what we're talking about. And I think clearing the air first and getting people to understand that, first and foremost, it is understanding that people are not aware, and then people
Hmm.
will buy, and there's a process that they go through. And then, as you were saying, more specifically, the actual touch points as part of each of those parts of the journey is what have
Hmm.
to be mapped in order to create some kind of um, next step, or conversion to the next step. So
Yeah.
that's a lot, and of course, I'm going to kind of deep dive a lot of this, or in the module of the course. But at a more high level, I think it's important for marketers to spend time on this, and and that there definitely is a result. And to your point, just to bring this all back full circle, you're talking about the old days and the new days. I think
Hmm.
what I draw out of your story is that, it, simply, if you're spending money on ads, and we can spend the rest of our time here assuming that the marketer we're talking to is having spending money on ads, um, what you're spending on ads matters, because you want to spend less, or you want to spend more, depending on the quality of what's coming through each part of your
Hmm.
funnel, or each part of the journey. So a small tweak to your knowledge about what that buyer is doing, and then how you meet them with your ad spend, is going to mean so much to the return on that investment in terms of ad spend. So that's what I'm kind of drawing from the analogy you were given.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, dead on, right? Um, yeah, I was trying to think of this while you were speaking. Like, is there another? analogy for buyer journey than funnel, because I feel like as
Mhm.
marketers, we're always trying to find a way to drive impact, and drive
Mhm.
sounds like force.
Sure.
But in reality, even if you're the most compelling person in the world and you have the most clever ad and it hits on the right
Mhm.
emotional touch points, you can't get somebody to really want something that they didn't want before they saw your ad. It's just not going
Exactly.
to happen.
Exactly.
So the analogy, it's just popping up into my head. This might get confusing because of web, but breadcrumbs seemed
Mhm.
a little more relevant. And the reason why is you're following breadcrumbs. You're getting some kind of piece of value every
That's
time
right.
you move forward. So you're kind of, you're being gently led, but more allowed to purchase.
Mhm.
And that's kind of the way I think about the buyer journey. You're not trying to force somebody to do something, or creating a path you're trying to pull people through, because it won't work that way.
That's right.
Rather, you're trying to give them things that they already want, like very, very high value things for very, very low cost or time
Mhm.
on their standpoint, to allow them to find their way into transacting with your business. Um,
Yes. A
that makes sense.
100%. And I think the more you know your buyer, which we talked about in the first couple
Hmm.
episodes, the closer you're going to get to be able to do that. It's all about speaking their language, right? When it comes down
Hmm.
to the brass tacks of what you guys do every day, a big piece of the impact comes through copy. And
Hmm.
copy is language that you're speaking to your buyer. You're essentially saying, "Hey, we get you. We get what you're struggling with, and we might have something that could interest you." And that could be the very first time they've heard of your product, service, brand, keyword, whatever. Or that same type of mentality applies all the way through to the conversion, where, hey, since this has all worked up to this point, I think we could do something together. It could look like this, right?
Hmm.
So that's kind of the way I think of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking, to make this hit a little more, because you and I are talking in the theory space, and maybe for
Hmm.
the listeners, I think we need to create a company right now. And I think we need to apply this buyer journey thinking to that company. I think we need
Okay.
something that's service based. You said it's B2B.
Yeah.
Um, and maybe something like super general, something that's like relatable to everybody. So I'm thinking like a major service firm, like law firm or CPA firm. What do you think? Can't be a marketing firm because it's too
Well,
close
I
to home.
really don't like attorneys, and I really don't like CPAs because they're just super boring. So maybe something that was sexy like 10 years ago, like a SaaS company,
A SaaS company, but
Yeah.
it's still automated. Let's think
No,
like
it's still,
actual
yeah, it's still
B2B service,
automated.
right? We want the heavy funnel, the complex buyer
Yes.
journey funnel.
Well,
What
okay.
about
So,
engineering? What about an
yeah,
engineering firm?
engineering or software development, where you're actually having to code, build something
Yeah,
that has to work, and you have a lot of people involved, and you
sure.
have tech people involved, sales people involved. So
Yeah,
I think that would be a pretty common
that's
applicable
fantastic.
company.
That's
Software
fantastic. And
development. You've got it.
yeah, all right. So software development firm, just for benchmarking sake, average transaction size 65, 70K. You think?
I think, well, what I've seen, it could be higher. I'd say at 100,000.
All right. So
Yeah.
average transaction 100,000, and we do everything from websites to mobile, or is it niche? Do we think?
Yeah, let's make it niche, because I think to the
Yeah.
analogy, speaking their buyer's language, it proves that, again, from a business strategy, it helps to go
Yeah.
niche. Obviously, when you start a
Yeah.
company, things go crazy. But let's just say it's,
Hmm.
they chose the right niche, and there's a good product market fit. They found the
Hmm.
audience that potentially is going to love what they're doing and needs a lot of what they're doing. So yeah, I'd say, they build. How about they build web? And I don't know a ton about this space, but they build wrapper software. Or I don't even know if you call it software. I guess it is software to existing AI LLMs, right? So that's a
Hmm.
hot thing right now. But it includes developers, et cetera, and lots of conversations about data and privacy. So
Hmm.
it could work. They're
All
a
right.
wrapper company. They're building wrappers.
All right. All right. Yeah. So they basically build the front end for people who don't know what wrapper is. They
Correct.
build a front end for an AI that serves some sort of specific query protocol and
That's right.
delivers some sort of specified value from the AI.
Yeah.
All right. So 100K transaction size, software firm. Um, there's
I got my
probably,
notebook out.
I know, right? There's probably 1,000, right? 1,000 new software firms that claim that they can do this every single day. So you're dealing with a very, very crowded space.
Yeah.
Um, and the customer, the people that are buying your help are people, either startups with an idea,
Hmm.
investors with an idea. It's the startups who raise from investors or the investors themselves,
Hmm.
um,
Or
or
big
your mid
companies.
markets.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Big companies that
yeah,
have private data that they want to somehow navigate.
hmm yeah. I wonder if we could niche down. So big companies are going to be a different buyer journey than the
Sure.
direct investors. What's more appealing, do you think, for our little firm?
Yeah. I think maybe let's go with investors. You know that world.
Investors.
You know that world.
Yeah, a little bit, a little bit. All right, so we're selling into investors. Um, they're trying to find a way to capitalize on this AI demand. They're
Mhm.
basically going straight to the development shops. They're not looking for founders to hire, invest in,
Yeah.
to take the risk for them and lead the charge for them. So
Right.
we need a very complex, um, and by complex I mean long, buyer journey for this customer, to establish trust, to allow the investor to understand that engaging with this firm is going to produce a result that they can go to market with right away
Hmm.
because time is of the essence for them, and proves that the firm already knows how to do this. So there needs to be some kind of, either long white paper, combined with a case study, or two separate documents that,
Hmm.
without a doubt, solidify for the investor that this firm knows how to do what he's trying to do or she's trying to do.
Yeah.
Um, so when you start thinking about your buyer journey, like your top of funnel, your awareness stages, the first thing that you're going to want to do is find a very, very high value thing you can put in front of somebody, that costs them next to nothing to
Hmm.
consume. Right. So if you're an investor, you're trying to get into this market, you're trying to find a firm that you can qualify. What can we put in front of you, um, that you need, like will help you along that process and won't cost you, we'll say, more than 15 seconds of your time to consume?
Hmm.
Any ideas?
Maybe some type of business modeling calculator. I don't know. Maybe that's further down the pipeline.
It could be that'd be more, in our buyer journeys, that's more at the conversion. So we call capture the actual sales stage, and
Yeah.
conversion is when you start grabbing contact information.
Right.
And calculators are good. It's a little bit of friction, but still fairly quick. I would think in
Okay.
top of funnel, some kind of, like checklist or guides, right? You're an investor, you have an
Yeah.
idea for what type of face you want to put on this
Hmm.
thing, but maybe you haven't thought about the components that go into it. For
Okay.
example, like what technologies you need, what different types of models can do, um, what type of data you can access with these models, will it fit the data you have? Can you
Hmm.
acquire the data you need to support it?
Hmm.
So you could do all that in like a one-pager PDF. So as you're
Yeah.
planning your AI business, um, you know, keep these 7 things in mind, with a list of
Okay.
top market players you can reference that will include your business. So,
Yeah. I like
um,
it.
you can put that up on Facebook, LinkedIn, lead ads. You could capture an email. That's a little friction, but generally, we just give it away for free. And
Hmm.
then everybody who engages with that becomes our target market. So our
Right.
TAM is literally everyone who engages with this first step.
Yep.
And you keep pushing that wider and wider and wider. Um, so your follow on campaigns, your calculators, like you suggested,
Hmm.
can aim at an audience that you already know is shopping for an AI front end because they engage with that piece, right?
Yes.
Uh, so going back to your first question, talking about ROI, you can get someone to engage with that for a penny or two, cost next to nothing,
Hmm.
and they automatically become your new audience pool. So everything else is now aiming at someone who's at least tangentially familiar with who you are.
Right.
That kind of
So
makes
you've
sense.
automatically
How we build this thing.
qualified a certain percentage of the market down without having to go and find them. They found you,
Hmm
um, and or you found each other. It sounds more romantic, right?
Yeah, yeah,
You found each other on the
right.
web, an over 30s chat room.
Uh-huh.
So then, how does that bleed into nurture? How does that like? To me, what I immediately think is that those 7 points, if they're strong enough, could then become their individual videos or content that you elaborate
Yeah,
on into your nurture phase that has a call to action to something that is more, um, you know, constantly engaging.
yeah. Well, I think nurture. The point to nurture is actual qualification, because I think everyone in B2B has heard the old "these are bad leads" before.
Yeah.
I fundamentally believe there are no bad leads. They're just not at the right stage yet.
Yes.
And I think, you mentioned the calculator top of funnel. A lot of companies do that, and you will get people to sign up for a calculator, like
Hmm.
right at the top of the funnel, but
Hmm.
they're not ready to buy. So like
Yes.
then you're trying to get them into a demo and they won't open the emails because they don't know who you are. So
Yes.
we like to do, 3 or even 4 different free pieces of information
Hmm.
that generally don't require any contact info. Maybe the third or fourth piece, we finally ask for an email, but we can see you at least in the platform, like inside of Facebook, inside of LinkedIn. We can see
Hmm.
if you clicked on it. We can target
Hmm.
you if you clicked on it. And we're pushing free stuff for you. So the networks love it because we're keeping them in the network. The
Hmm.
audience loves it because they can just click and get value. And
Hmm.
you're also creating this little behavior. Every time they engage with you, they get something of value. Like,
Right.
okay, I'll keep engaging with this brand because I keep getting free stuff that's super useful to my AI hunt. So
Yeah.
coming back to nurture, once they've shown they have a pattern of engaging with the stuff you put in front of
Hmm.
them, that's your real qualifier. It's not even the piece itself, it's
Hmm.
the pattern of conversion. Like I've shown them X number of ads, they've clicked on every single one on the first or second impression. These people are interested in who we are.
Hmm.
Give me your email. You can
Gotcha.
get way higher open rates. And those people, you can do the exact same thing. Send them 3 or 4 different things
Hmm.
that are super high value. Pay attention to the ones that are opening, ignore the ones that just shut you out. You know,
Hmm.
they might even have forgotten who you are. You shouldn't send anything to them if they don't open a second time.
Right.
And those are the guys you go for demo with, the ones who keep opening and keep engaging. There's real intent
Yes.
there.
So let's stop here for a second, and I want to underscore one major thing that we kind of just glossed over, and that is
Yeah.
timing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think that what I see in experience with marketers and companies is that whenever I bring up this concept of timing, I can sort of see it, the light bulb go on or come back on, where they know
Yeah.
that timing is a huge deal for whether something's going to work or not, at whatever part of the journey. And I've heard this one stat that I've seen play out time and time again over the years, and that is 1 to 3% of the market's always buying. There's always 1 to 3% of the market buying. So if you're going after 100,000 people, what's that? 3,000 people, or 1 to 3,000 people, or whatever that may be. Maybe it's 100 to 300. I don't know. I'm bad at math, but there's a small, right? There's a small percent, and those people, you don't have to influence them as much because they're already there in whatever's happening in their world, needs, desires, pains, whatever. So as you're crafting a strategy to project sales in your market, and we're mostly speaking companies that have been around for a little while. These are not startups that don't know their market. And if you have a pretty good idea of how big your market is, well, that's your go conservative 1%. Those are the people you could sell today, tomorrow, next, on a quarterly basis, a salesperson in a territory, that kind of thing. The rest of them, the next stat is like 20 to 25 to 30% above that is going to be the people that you could influence into a conversation, right? So that's where you want to spend a
Mm-hmm.
lot of all the stuff we're talking about.
Yes.
That's where
Yes.
all that stuff drives to. It's
Yes.
right. But then the people above that, what's that? 31%. So 29%, or what, again, bad
70.
with math.
Yeah.
69% of the rest of the people, which
Mm.
is a big percentage of people, are not ready to do anything. They may they may, click through and look at the content. They may save it. They may do some of the top of the funnel type activity, which again, it's good to see who those people are, but they won't do anything for the time that is left in their mind of when they need to actually take an action. And there's trigger points in everyone's world that marketers should start to learn. You learn this by learning your customer. Trigger points meaning industry shifts that are, regulatory, um, you know, economic shifts. There's lots of trigger points that, supply chain type stuff, whatever it is that will trigger a decision, or a decision to start looking for a solution like yours. All those trigger points. Now you can grab hold of the 69% and be ready to influence them when those triggers happen. So you have a little bit more control over that bigger number. But there's
Mm-hmm.
still a huge number of people in your qualified market that are not ready to buy and they're not going to buy. So don't make them mad by
Yeah.
trying to get them to buy, right?
Yeah.
So the job of marketing is to focus on the is to align themselves with sales to close the 1%, but it's also to focus on that bottom 25 to 30% to influence them, and
To
then
move into the 1%.
get a hold
Yeah.
of the rest of that big number and nurture them longer term so that you
Mm.
and your brand are in front of them and they recognize you as the expert when that trigger point happens. So I want that whole sort of shift to happen in a marketer's mind where timing is the critical thing that we sort of can control but really can't control. So we're
Mhm.
creating a strategic plan around the timing of your buyer and how they're going to choose to engage you at whatever level in the buying journey. But as you can see, as we start breaking this down, it becomes a little bit more controllable, a little bit more you know you can make it influence a little bit more in your buyer's world. So I think it's good to stop and talk about that, because if they keep that front of mind, they're going to remember, okay, well, we can't sell all these people, we can't get them all to download something, we can't get them all to do something. But if we think in terms of these percentages, that helps with projections and so on and so forth. So
Mhm.
back to nurture.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I want to stick with the pie for a second there. It's kind of the market pie or the interest and demand pie,
Hmm.
if you want to give it a name.
Hmm.
Um, and I think the biggest value that a business gets, the biggest ROI they get out of building a journey and building their marketing plans around a journey, is you can start to penetrate into bigger chunks of the pie. When you're just doing the two-step, here's my product, buy now,
Yeah,
you're only targeting the 3%. You've
that's it.
automatically constricted your TAM to 3% of the market, because
Yes.
anyone who's not buying is going to ignore you and they're going to forget about you because you're
Yes.
that company with just saying buy.
Yes.
Um, but by building, 5, 6, 7 stages on top of that, particularly for
Hmm.
this AI firm we're creating here,
Hmm.
they'll know who you are and they'll have some time to think about you long before they're in a position to buy. And in time, through free and one penny, two penny touches, you become their Geico. When you think about insurance, Geico
Hmm.
comes to mind, Liberty
Yeah,
Mutual, like the guys who run
that's
ads
it.
to you 24/7, so you're there.
That's right.
That's their funnel.
That's right. And all of that starts to bleed into this conversation of building a brand. Well, you're building a brand for the full funnel and pipeline, but your brand is going to have the most impact for the people who the timing isn't right now, but it might be right in 18 months, because they're going to be seeing you and seeing you demonstrate that, demonstrating, number one, that the industry, how things work together, and you are the key company to build this wrapper for them. um
Mhm.
when it comes to awareness, or I mean, when it comes to nurture, I've had so much success with email newsletters, or not necessarily newsletters, but cold email and warm email. I really
Yeah.
feel like for B2B service based companies, email is the magic for nurturing, because you can deliver, if you do it right, you can deliver so much value on a week to week or biweekly basis that points
Yeah.
them to all of the other pieces that you're building. Right. So if we talk about paid getting you, to, in one scenario, getting you to the email, now you own that audience, and you have a better feedback loop on from open click through and
Hmm.
replies on what's actually resonating with them, as you're demonstrating over time that you're the right suitor. So I'm curious to know, in your world, obviously email's probably pretty big, but from a paid standpoint, how do you approach um, the nurture stage? Because we were talking about
Um,
building a guide, now we're talking about building something else, right?
yeah. Yeah. So recapture, right? Um, as much as you can qualify people
Mhm.
into your buyer journey by giving them something for free that's super low friction,
Mhm.
they still forget about you, or they're on vacation, or they're distracted with all the other million important things they have to get done at that point in
Mhm.
time, so they don't happen to see a stage. We'll use ads to bring people back in at whatever touch point they're in when we lose them. And again, huge ROI lift, because you're not spending that ad to buy a purchase, which
Yes.
is the most expensive thing you can do. You're just getting someone to click back into something they found interesting before,
Hmm.
which is going to click at a pretty high rate, and it's going to convert at a pretty high rate too.
Right.
It's kind of a double whammy lift for you.
Yeah, I like that. What comes to mind when you're talking about that is competitors. So if your competitors
Mm-hmm.
are not astute marketers, they're going to be
Mm-hmm.
spending to compete with you for that bottom of the funnel keyword or sequence, and you're playing a different game. So
Yeah,
therefore, your ROI could be better, um, which flows downhill.
yeah, yeah. I mean, for our own firm, we have it's an 8 step program, but it's all of it is free. It's all on our website. We have a bunch of different ebooks we put together on different stages of building a marketing team, and we have a visual tool. I think I might have shown you about like how we do
Hmm.
planning.
Hmm.
Full disclosure, we work with strategists like you at all times to do the real stuff, but just helping people organize the work so we can execute it. We have some tools for that.
That's right.
And that's the only thing we advertise. Like we don't promote anything about us or our services. It's really kind of hard to find if you don't know who we are.
Hmm.
But if you're looking for a way to visualize your marketing plan, then we start to show up for you. Or
Yes.
how to hire a team really quickly after you raise funding. Like we have stuff out there for those.
Hmm.
And we have tons of free material that we send people through.
Hmm.
And again, we only pay attention to the guys who go all the way through. And if you
Yeah.
hit all 8 of those, okay, you're building
That's a
something. Can I
pretty
help you?
serious buyer prospect, and the timing is probably pretty close.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. But I mean, they have to basically raise their hand by participating in all those things to
Hmm.
prove that, okay, I'm really doing something right now.
Right.
And then we save a lot of time and a lot of money not advertising to people who are just kicking tires or,
That's
our
right.
competitors themselves.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's great because you're making it. It's like still quantitative, but you're making it qualitative. You're at the same time, as people are raising their hands as they work through each stage of
Hmm.
of that like mini funnel. That's good. I
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. But I mean, even more metrics. So this probably relates pretty well to our technology firm, right? If you're selling $100,000 product, you're probably going to be spending $1,000 to $2,000 to win a customer.
Hmm.
For us, generally speaking, it's like $500 for us to win a customer.
Hmm.
But that includes the work it takes to build the proposal and
Yeah.
like get everything kind of landed. It costs us $3.50 to get someone into our nurture flow.
Yeah.
So when you compare the two, like $3, they're in the flow. They basically raise their own hand. It's all
That's right.
automated. It's just a
Yeah.
SaaS fee.
It's amazing.
ROI is massive. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's not even something that really is calculable because there's such a big disparaging gap there. I mean,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So if we looked at awareness and we gave the example of building a guide. Okay, we'll follow this all the way through.
Yeah.
Then nurture phase is where what are we building there? I mean, you gave the example of your company building a kind of a step by step, but for this
Mhm.
AI fake company,
Yeah.
what do they need to build
So an
or
AI
create?
company, you need to have a free planning session, I think, um, because someone's not going to decide to buy you because of the stuff you put in front of them. I think an investor in particular, if that's our target market,
Mm-hmm.
they're an investor because they made a lot of really good decisions and they know how to avoid being sold things.
Hmm.
Like they buy, they don't get sold.
Yeah.
So selling them is not the strategy. A free demo is not the strategy. But a planning session is a way you can give them value and also highlight areas they haven't thought through yet,
Yes.
and highlight where your business is different. And for service firms, we recommend this all the time because there's so many reach out and say, "Hey, we have cheap developers," or like we develop high quality products, and look at these logos. Like that
Yeah.
doesn't convince you anymore
No,
because everyone says the same thing.
that's
But
right.
if you reach out and say, "Hey, I know you're planning a project. I'll dedicate my time and resources to helping you break it down,"
Hmm.
you're probably going to want to see how you do it. And the things that hook
Yeah.
you are not your pricing or even the positioning of your business.
Hmm.
It's the things you do in planning that nobody else does.
Yes.
Now as a buyer, as an informed buyer, I'm going to go ask everyone else, well, hey, do you do this thing?
Hmm.
And if you don't, there's some differentiation there. Suddenly I'm hooked to you.
So
Makes
it
sense.
allows you to demonstrate your uniqueness.
Mm-hmm.
And then, as you said, and I've seen this happen many times where you do the right thing, you shake your hips the right way, and then they go to the other person that they're looking at that they thought so highly of, and they say, by the way, can you do this? And then
Yeah, yeah.
and then they're like, well, why are you asking about that? We've never had anybody ask us about that. Well, that immediately right there shines a light on
Nope,
that you're
nope, nope.
the one, because you gave them the question to ask that they didn't know to ask. That's,
Yeah.
to me, the big change there. And so you're talking about a free planning session. What comes to mind, which is kind of similar, is like an audit. Um,
Yeah.
and if we're talking about AI wrappers, um, WRAPPER, I'm sure there's
AI
AI
wrappers.
rappers out there, but well, I could think, one, if you looked at the pillars of like, what are the pillars that make up, um, a successful attempt at building something like this. One of them is probably going to be centered around the topic of data. So
Mhm.
maybe helping them audit their data in a way that's secure or whatever, um, for free, is
Mhm.
going to reveal things, again, like the planning session, reveal things to them that they didn't know. And you start that working relationship. I worked for a consulting firm up in Birmingham, Alabama, for a number of years, and you know, I had a great boss who owned the firm, and super smart guy. And he said something one time that really stuck with me, and that was like, let's just start working for him. Let's just start doing work for him. And it was like kind of this crazy, like, are you sure? Like, we don't really need to get him to like buy something.
Mhm.
And it clicked for me. What he was really saying is, let's just go ahead and start demonstrating that we know what we're doing, and we'll do it with their stuff, right? As long as they'll give us
Mhm.
permission to start working on stuff, we'll do it for free, because it's only going to make more and more sense to them that we need to be part of their team to help them do what we do for our clients. And he's right. I mean, I've tried to take that principle and into consulting, and there's a boundary you kind of have to draw at some point where, if you're not in front of the right buyer, you can end up getting used, and it doesn't work that well. But assuming you are in front of the right buyer and all the metrics add up, it's a great approach. And so for the nurture stage, I think it's such a great um, pass through to the conversion, because now we're already kind of working together in some capacity. I mean, we're having a
Yeah.
Zoom call, and you're working with your team. I know John and Betty and whoever,
Yeah.
like we're kind of already working together, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Then they have to stop something, or they have to go backwards to move away. Now, I
Yes,
mean,
that's a
on
good
the one
point.
hand, you don't want to trap anybody, but I think what you're talking about is like free value. It goes back to our first point that we're allowing people to convert. We're not pulling them or forcing them or pushing them or anything. And
Mhm.
by just starting to work for them, we're allowing them to keep it moving.
Right.
Right, we're making it extremely easy for them to continue to ask questions,
Yes.
participate in the buying process, scope out the engagement. And as long as that's there, you don't need to do any selling. You can allow the project to move to a point where something is going to cost money to keep it going and make sense to spend the money to make it happen.
Yeah, that's right. And I would say it a slightly different way, but it's kind of not an or, but more of an and. That
Yeah,
is, you're leading them through the process, which allows them to go through the process. And
yeah,
so I think a lot of the times that I'll win business, I get the business simply because I have taken all the steps and proven to them through the steps that I've done this before, and I can they can the confidence that they can just purchase, or sign the agreement, and we
yeah.
can continue moving down the road with the steps. That's a lot of confidence to say, hey, we know the way, and we'd love to have you come along with us, and we'll lead you the whole way. um,
Mhm.
if they're not getting that from the other company or from other people, it's going to shine another light on competitors.
Yeah, huge, huge, huge differentiation. I think that, I mean, that's that's the entire nurture funnel. Like, how do we've gone from giving you free value that's related to the product or service that we deliver for
Hmm.
you into actually delivering part of the value
That's
that a
right.
product or service gives you. And um, by doing that, we earn trust. We let you experience working with us. We demonstrate how we're different.
Hmm.
Um, we create. I mean, it's effective leverage, right? By offering things that other people don't or can't
Hmm.
in that free value session, you're creating some leverage with your customer. And we're making it extremely easy for them to decide, because at the end of the day, just like a sales conversion rate, it's not going to be 100%. Like, people are going to say no.
Hmm.
but both of you will know if they say no after they've engaged to that level that it wasn't the right fit.
That's right.
Um,
It'll
the
be
people who say no,
very
yeah,
obvious. Yeah,
yeah, those are the people you probably wouldn't have wanted to say yes anyway. It's a good
completely.
thing.
Completely.
Yeah,
Yeah, the way I look at this path between nurture and conversion is sort of like you're demonstrating expertise so you can demo your product or demo your service as you would to get an agreement, right? So they
yeah,
kind of are separate, but they kind of go together. And I look at that gray area there is where marketing and sales need to be just completely aligned. And I call that gray area meaningful conversations. So the
yeah,
goal is to get, you can call them opportunities and call them whatever, but meaningful conversations makes the most sense to me in the B2B context, because when you start having these type of conversations we're talking about, it's meaningful to both sides. One's leading the other, and you probably are not going to turn around and go back the other way unless it is sort of commoditized and it's really just going to come down to price. And in
mm-hmm.
that case, you have a business model issue more than you do a marketing or sales issue.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's the way I try to paint the picture for my clients is you want to get to meaningful conversations. And again, those could sort of parachute in, it could be the first conversation or second conversation you're having with somebody and they give you access to the data. They say, yeah, sure. Go ahead. Show us what you can do on the free audit. The next conversation is a demo and you're working together because the timing happened to be right. But focusing in on getting people through to what can be meaningful for both sides is should have a very high conversion rate to demo to
Yeah,
sale to opportunity, whatever you want to
yeah.
call it.
What's your thought? I'd love your thought on like demos as a nurture tool. And the
Mhm.
reason why I'm asking, I'll kind of frame it up. I think in the beginning, when it wasn't super easy to find 10 YouTube videos in every product that
Yeah,
exists,
right, right.
like demos had a lot of value because you couldn't
Yeah,
see the tool unless you did
sure.
one. But I think today we're actually seeing a negative correlation between demo and conversion rate,
Mhm,
just because today demos are usually used as bait to get people on the phone and sell to them.
mhm.
And I'm seeing it particularly in B2B, folks don't really want to be sold to. They know what they want. They have a
That's right.
specific checklist. Um, so you can, even if the demo is your objective to win, like you can win the exact same conversion by calling it something else, like a
Yeah,
consultation or like a
agreed.
tailored walkthrough or like a value consultation or something. Like give it a different name
Mhm.
and frame it up against something that you think your customer really wants. Um, because they don't just want to see the tool. Nobody wants to sign up to see the tool and get sold, but they're happy listening to a pitch if the pitch is tailored to them or their
Yes.
specific solution in some way.
Well, I mean, I get emails all the time from companies asking me if it could pay me $100 or a gift card or whatever to just sit in on a demo. It's like,
Yeah,
I don't care. I don't know about your company. I don't care about your company. I don't even care about that solution. And
yeah,
so you're asking me to just to make kind of way I think of it as an ethical decision of do I want to spend 15 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever of my time to get potentially a Walmart gift card or Amazon gift card for
yeah,
this amount. Like that answer is always no.
yeah.
And it's obvious that these tactics that you're using are completely disconnected from your actual buyers who would want to sit into this and not need to get paid. So
Mhm.
I think that to me, that's where I would start. Since we're already there, or since we're finally there, maybe that these sort of sales tactics are happening with mostly SaaS or these software type of solutions. It shows it's so commoditized that you're right. You can get on and find 15 other solutions that do the same thing, and even with AI, we're starting to already see the birth of all of these different new companies that supposedly do all these things. So I would say in the case of this example, an AI wrapper company, my guess with a little bit of the knowledge I have about AI, it's going to be a more bespoke solution. So
Yeah,
it's not going to be at this moment in time as commoditized. So a demo of the product kind of doesn't really exist. It's really more of a demonstration of your expertise to build a product for the client. But even more generally speaking, if it's not a hyper commoditized and you can, let's say you're just a development firm and you want to build a product for them mobile or web, you're going to probably want to demo some kind of technical example, right? So here's an example of what we build and how it functions. But that's really, I think, now relegated to further down the sales pipeline, where you're actually putting a proposal together and you're using that as an example to showcase the work that you could do for them. Again, it being more bespoke. But it's not like, let me show you how my widget works and how it's different than the next person's widget that you're going to watch after mine.
Yeah.
I would say that's one thought. The second thought is, I think that I sort of subscribe to this now here, 2023 and beyond, marketing philosophy of demonstrating your expertise all the way through and being the leader of your qualified market. So, when you get to the free planning session or the audit, that's an actual literal demonstration. But you can demonstrate even further up. I would say I would also call it nurturing with a podcast or an email. And even with the awareness, once they become aware, they can become aware through referred to an email, a podcast, all the things that are nurturing can be, bring awareness. But if they're, let's say they see an ad, Instagram Reels ad, they click through. I think that you have to quickly get to demonstrating as quickly as you can that you are an expert, or your team has the tools of expertise or the knowledge of expertise. In this case, we understand data, we understand how to manipulate data, we understand how to develop software that is going to affect change in these types of ways. You have to be able to communicate that and quickly get them into the conversation that matters, so that it becomes a constant demonstration of expertise all the way through down to proposal. And then even after proposal, they are fully already ready, know your team, working with your team kind of thing. And now you're just actually working on the actual project. So that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great way to look at it. I think we're both indirectly agreeing that the days of like a static product demonstration are kind of dead.
Yeah.
And particularly with development firms, it's about earning trust and proving that you can do what you say you can do. And
Yeah.
demo doesn't really have a place there anymore. It's a lot more bespoke. It's a lot more tailored to the solution they're looking at. And what I was thinking as you were talking through this is it's so easy to train, basically train, at a simple level, not
Mm-hmm.
train an entirely new bot. But you can, like we use a tool called WriteSonic,
Mm-hmm.
and they have their own subsystem called BotSonic. And you can upload a spreadsheet with a bunch of different responses in it, and the bot will train itself
Oh, cool.
on your response format and suddenly be able to answer the way that your response is dictated to answer. So if you're an
Sure.
AI company, you could very easily put, potential customers through a questionnaire and
Mm-hmm.
offer something totally ridiculous, like we'll make a beta of what we think your product is
Yeah.
and demo that to you. And, you're going to get
Yeah.
a 90% call-in rate.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if it's total crap. The only thing
That's
that
right.
matters is that you tried and you're
It's a
giving them
mock-up.
something to give you feedback on.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's a mock-up.
And people will get on the phone. Oh, you're going to build the whole thing and then show it to me? Or
Yeah.
like, well, low expectations. It's just a demo. But
Yeah.
that's, you're going above and beyond. You're creating a reason to talk, creating a reason for feedback. And it's probably something other people aren't doing. So someone's going to respond to something like that.
For sure. And it's in the world that I want marketers to live in, it's not such an uncommon, novel thing to do that, to have. It's a mindset more that we're going to identify our market, we're going to qualify these buyers. In the B2B world, you can literally buy a list of everyone and their title and their email and their phone and their LinkedIn. You have it all right there on a spreadsheet. So it's up to you to translate and communicate the value through to them. Right? You can find them. You can find them on social. You can find them on the web. They can find you. You can meet out there somewhere. You can do all these things, but it's how are we translating the value through? And I think that's probably a good point to make when it comes to content creation, because as we start to delineate what we're trying to do with the buyer based on what we know about the percentages in the market, the timing, all of these things, and the path that we think they're going to travel, both internally with their decision makers and then externally as they're seeking to find a solution. Your content that you create, we're talking about building a guide or a white paper, offering a free planning session. So there's content that has to lead up to that. all this content's now going to become so much more valuable to them wherever they are in that journey. So,
Mhm.
I'd love to get your thoughts on how you've seen that play out in the campaigns that you guys run, where, what the type of content you create, whether it's an infographic versus a video, so format, but also uh, the type of content in terms of, impact that you're trying to have at each part of the journey. um, how does that play out? Because if you were to map all this out and now you're like, okay, we have to create content, we have to create something to put in all these different slots,
Mhm.
um, what's the direction that you would give the marketer at that point?
Yeah, I mean, so it's just about ease of consumption, and that applies
Hmm.
throughout the entire journey. So video is great for delivering value super quickly because they just push play. They don't even have to leave
Yes.
where they are to
Yes.
consume it. That's why podcasts like this are so effective. People can see
Hmm.
how smart you are. But I think downloads are a little more invasive. Downloads that require signups are a little more invasive. Calculators are a little more invasive. So you leave those a little later in the funnel.
Hmm.
And depending on how much demand there is, you dial up the friction or dial it down. So if you're a B2C, you don't want any friction. Like, so if you
Right.
can, make this as slippery as possible, you make it as slippery as you possibly can. But B2B, you almost want a little bit of friction because you don't want to spend
Hmm.
time, um, making a proposal for a company that's not legitimate. And I'll give you,
That's right.
if we want to have a chuckle as marketers before we close this out, I'll give you a little story. We've been working with this company on a proposal for an affiliate program for the last week and a half. And this is totally my fault. This is a big egg on the face, but it's an investment company.
Hmm.
It's one of those like bot traders, but they have a crazy return rate and they guarantee it.
Yeah.
And we did some work for one of the big e-brokers, one of the top three in the world,
Hmm.
4 years ago. That we built an affiliate program for them. So I know all the partners to go to. It was going to be a
Hmm.
really easy win for us, and the returns just looked crazy. But because of that, I didn't qualify the buyer. So we think about like the buyer
Hmm.
funnel. They came right in at the bottom. They hadn't expressed interest. I didn't really go through the qualification steps.
Yeah.
So we're through proposal. They've verbaled everything. They're looking at the agreement, ready to go. And I'm looking at this company, thinking about how to onboard it, and I just start doing some diligence on the firm. And it turns out they're not even a registered entity.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so didn't pull the trigger on the contract, walked away. But I shot them a note and just say, hey, can you send me your business registration or business license, because this is kind of highly regulated space, and
Yeah.
I don't want to send millions of investment into your business if
Right.
someone's going to get sued for fraud down the line. And they gave me a bunch of lip about not trusting them this late in the process.
Oh
I'm like, these are
gosh. Yeah.
public documents. Like, this is not a hard thing to share if it actually exists.
Yeah.
But I think as marketers, we want to protect our sales team from doing what I did.
Yes.
We want to make sure that our marketing gets them out of the way. So you were asking about what content mediums. In B2B, calculators are great for weeding out, tire kickers,
Hmm.
because the folks who use them really understand what they want. They have
Yes.
their core buying principles there. You can line them up with your value points. And
Hmm.
the guys who complete that with some integrity are actually interested in working with you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would say too, you as a great example in that case, it's becomes obvious to you at the end, where it's like they're just really trying to force themselves into an agreement where you're like, wow, this is too easy, right? It's never this easy. There's obviously red
Something's
flag here,
wrong.
you know.
Yeah.
But that's where I think if you go back up the funnel, you can start to institute a lot of those questions, um, scattered or not, through that filter process. And again, kind of speaking more to the sales process than the marketing funnel, but having those baseline filter type of, you guys came in from kind of nowhere. We don't really know each other. Let's make sure we're on the same page. It could take 5 minutes or 15 minutes to get that out of the way, as a standard practice. Well, it creates friction, like you said, but it helps you to not waste the time with the buyer, through the rest of the, probably good thing you only spent a week or maybe a week and a half here and there on it.
Yeah, only a week. Only a week, if I could have it back. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, if I had run them through the journey that we already have, I would have
Hmm.
disqualified them before we even spoke. So, in terms of you're allowing people to come through, but you're also, preventing the ones that don't really make sense for your time from not
Yeah.
wasting your time too. In
Well,
particular, with our AI tech, they could spend months coding things for a business that's never going to transact, and you could probably
mhm.
design your journey to weed out somebody who doesn't really know what they want yet.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And I think going back to leading the prospect through the journey and through the sales process, they're going to respect you and see again that you've done this before. This is a more of a slow methodical pace towards a good ending versus just
Mhm.
trying to force them through to get your numbers.
Yeah.
Every buyer we're all buyers, right? We all know when someone's trying to do that. So it's a positive thing. And then one other thing that came to mind too is this content, wherever it is, it gives us the chance to demonstrate our expertise, lead them through, but you know, shine light for them by doing those things, shine light into their world about not only the things that can come from this, but also the risk that they're mitigating. I always want to I always want to bring this up with my clients to say it's not only this, and the calculator thing kind of triggered it in my mind is like
Yeah.
if a astute business person, whomever that is in the company that's buying, can calculate their end result or calculate something that's connected to an end result, then that shows that they probably know their business pretty well, which means they're probably going to be a better prospect for you to continue forward with. So not only have they highly qualified themselves, but they've used the calculator to inform themselves of potentially a downside or risk that they're going to mitigate, which provides value. You're providing more value, but also shines light on the upside. So there's so much that you can do with content through the whole journey. The more you know your buyer, the more the position they're in, and when they reveal themselves through these different touch points, I think it's such a powerful thing to get on and get right as you iterate and have these sort of feedback loops going.
Yeah. No, I think the other piece too, like once you have the journey together, it's very, very clear what you need to do to make your marketing work.
Hmm.
That's actually where we started with it. It wasn't as much as we want to help people convert. It was a lot more for us about making it obvious to business owners
Yeah.
what steps need to be taken to actually build a successful marketing program.
Hmm.
Because we kept getting questions like, "Is it working yet? Is it working yet?" And it's like, okay, we have like five other pieces that we need to build. It's not there.
Yeah.
But once it's all mapped out, hey, for the first three stages, I'm 100% video. So I got to call Lee and Signal Media and help
Hmm.
load this thing up to make it actually work. Then what? Okay, now I need to go build a landing page and build a calculator and
Hmm.
set up my demo and train the staff on it.
Hmm.
But it's a checklist. I think business
That's
leaders
right.
do really well with checklists. And as marketers, we're so theoretical most of the time.
Hmm.
We don't like to put these things down on paper and make them easy to buzz through. But mapping out the journey creates a blueprint that you can follow, and it's pretty easy
Yes.
for everyone to get on the same page with it.
Yeah, that's right. And marketers have a hard time historically about proving value, and especially if they're launching something new or trying to have growth around something that hasn't had growth for some time, lifting something that's heavy there. But having that checklist is important because they can say, okay, here's very transparent to leadership. For this month, I'm building all of these things out with the hopes of launching this campaign that will do X. And so, well, what did marketing do this month? Well, we built all these things, right? So that's step one. And then what did we do next month? Well, we launched all these things. And then what did we do the
Yeah,
next month? Well, I'm oversimplifying it, but
yeah,
marketers can then point to the success of the things that they built and launched instead of it just being a
mhm.
complete, well, we have overhead with marketing and then we have paid spend and there's no
And
ROI.
it's all or nothing. It either works or
That's
it
right.
doesn't work. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's fantastic when you sit down with a head of sales or a CEO and you have
Hmm.
a journey report that shows that you have seven stages, that six out of the seven are converting at 75%. So they're like, damn, like,
Yeah,
that's how it's supposed to work. Once they're in, they're
that's
in.
right.
But that way they don't, the one stage is converting at 15% and hemorrhaging all of your money. It's a simple fix. You fix one specific spot and the rest of it's cranked. And that
That's right.
gives people a lot of confidence in the plan and validity to the work that you're doing.
Completely. Hey,
Hmm.
this has been amazing. As I knew it would be. We're like seconds away from an hour here. It's probably the longest episode I've had this series, which is awesome. So thanks so much. Any last words you want to communicate to marketing leaders about outlining and the importance of building a buyer's journey?
Um, yeah, so the big message when you're making a plan, particularly with a new company, there's a lot of uncertainty as to whether or
Mhm.
not you can do it, and most likely the leaders in your firm are counting on you to do something that they're responsible for, and
Mhm.
that's the hat we wear as marketers. It's always going to be that way. Um, but putting them down on paper in a journey like this makes it a lot easier for you to bet on the things that you can do.
Mhm.
And I pretty much guarantee you'll surprise yourself in what you can achieve once you see it all in a format like that. So make a
Yes,
list, build your plan in a list, aim all your tactics to different stages of the journey. The results will surprise you, guaranteed.
100%. Thanks, Nick. This has been great. I appreciate it.
Likewise, great to be on.